But anyway, I'll
yeah,
get going.
now that's better.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, hello everyone. Sorry about all the glitches, and welcome to the last session of today. And thank you very much for joining this. It's going to be quite a short session. I'm Michael Rundell. I am the editor-in-chief of the Macmillan Dictionary, macmillandictionary.com. And I'm here to give a few ideas about using the Macmillan Dictionary to build vocabulary. And particularly talk about the way the dictionary can support you in choosing the right words, the words that you really need to use, and also, crucially, in how to use those words in the most effective and natural way. I might have to talk a little bit quickly because the session isn't very long, but it will. This PowerPoint that you see here on the screen will also be available as a PDF a little bit later. So let's get going. I'm now trying to, that's it, move the slide on. Yeah, got it. Well, what's a dictionary? I guess everybody knows the answer to that. What we have here is a definition of the word dictionary in a dictionary, in the Macmillan Dictionary, and it says here it's a book that gives a list of words in alphabetical order and explains what they mean. And I guess, you know, if you ask most people in the street what a dictionary was, they would probably say something like that. So what it's saying is it's a book, it explains what words mean. Well, you may have spotted there's already a little bit of a problem over that because it's not just a book, is it? Most dictionaries these days are available also online, and really the online editions are by far the most important now. So sure, it explains what words mean, and that's part of what we call the dictionary's receptive function, so that if you're involved in some kind of receptive task, reading or listening, you know, you've heard a word, you've seen it written down, you're not quite sure what it means, so you want to look it up, and that's, you know, a classic way of using a dictionary. But there's more to it than that. Here's another definition of dictionary, which is the one that you will now see if you go to macmillandictionary.com online. And it says a little bit more. It says it's a reference resource providing information about words and their meanings, uses, and pronunciations. So you can see that it can be a book or it can be a digital resource. It also explains what words mean. We've had that already. But it explains too how words are used. This is very important. And also how you say them. We can think of that in terms of features again. We've looked at receptive uses. Now we're talking about productive uses. How words are used. This is terribly important if English isn't your first language. You need to know about how to use words and how to pronounce them if you're engaged in any kind of productive task. What you want to do is know how words combine with other words and, of course, how to pronounce them. So the first of those things is about grammatical patterns. If you think of a word like recall, well, it's pretty easy to understand. It's not a complicated word. It means more or less the same as remember, but that doesn't tell you enough to enable you to use the word effectively. And what you've got in that same entry is not just the definition to remember something, but a lot of information about grammar patterns, about how the word combines with other words in order to form meaningful sentences. And it could be that the way this word, there's a similar word in your language and the way that word is used is a little bit different. So this is extremely useful and important information. You might also want to say the word, and you know, English is not the easiest language in the world when it comes to the correspondence between the way a word is spelled and how you say it. And you may understand all of these words, but how on earth do you say them? And that last one is a particularly tricky customer. And here it is. In the dictionary, there are two ways of finding out how you say things, how you pronounce them. I mean, there's the traditional IPA symbols, which are here, and it says Worcester sauce. But the great thing about being online is that you can now actually hear the word spoken by pushing this button here that says pronunciation, and you'll hear an actor saying either the word Worcester sauce if you're in the British edition, or something like Worcester sauce if you're in the American edition. And of course, those two things are not always the same. So we've talked there about helping with productive tasks, grammar patterns, pronunciation. I want to look at that from a slightly different angle. That when we're talking about producing our own text, creating our own text in English, there are two important goals. I mean, the first one is accuracy. Well, that's pretty straightforward, easy to define. We just mean avoiding mistakes that might make your meaning a little bit less clear. But the other one is fluency, which is also terribly important. It's about language, producing language that sounds natural, sounds idiomatic, sounds appropriate to the situation. Now, how the dictionary can help with accuracy? Well, most of the information in the dictionary will help you with that, about saying the thing right, spelling it right, getting the grammar right, and so on. There's another interesting feature you may not know about, which is what we call get it right boxes. And here's an example from the word avoid. This is a very interesting and special feature of the Macmillan Dictionary. There are over 100 of these boxes, and as it says here, they're based on evidence of common problems experienced by learners. So what we've done is analyzed a lot of data, language data, text produced by learners, to see if we can identify the words and the patterns and so on, which seem to regularly cause problems when people are creating their own text. And this is one about the word avoid, where we discovered that an awful lot of learners use avoid with an infinitive clause, like avoid to lose long quotations. A survey has found that most smokers would avoid to eat out if smoking were banned. These are real sentences produced by learners. We didn't just make them up. And what we do in the Get It Right box is explain what the problem is and give corrected versions of those sentences. So this is another aspect of helping in terms of accuracy. But let's go on to fluency. Fluency is a little bit harder to define, but it's just as important. Once you reach a certain level as a language learner, and you're fairly confident that you're not, making lots of mistakes, the thing that is really important is to be able to produce language that sounds natural, which means using words in the way that they're normally used, typically used, most frequently used. And there are three keys to fluency that I wanted to mention here. The first of these is about phraseology. We know that a lot of words appear very frequently in more or less fixed phrases. And what the dictionary does here, sorry, this is a little bit small, but it's the word reason. And again, reason is not a particularly difficult word to understand, but what you see here in these sort of black bits is that there are a huge number of very common expressions in which the word reason appears, and that's very typical of frequent words in the vocabulary. These are really worth knowing, and they're all listed here. You can see things like, for the simple reason that, I didn't go there for the simple reason that no one was expecting me to, or there is every reason to think, there's every reason to expect, there's every reason to believe. These are very useful expressions. So that's phraseology. You can see here this last one, did she give a reason? Well, give a reason is actually more like a collocation. And this is what we want to talk about now. Collocation, you'll know, is a combination of two words that very frequently go together. And the fact that these combinations are very frequent is an indication that they're also very natural, very typical. And these things are not always easy to predict. So as well as providing that information as we did just here in the body of the entry, we've also got more than 1,000 of these things that we call collocation boxes, which appear at many of the very frequent words in the language, including this one, the word reason. And what it's telling you is that there's a list of adjectives here that are very commonly used with reason. Words like compelling, I mean, that means a reason which is extremely kind of powerful and convincing, or maybe obvious. And then there are all these verbs that you can use with reason. We saw give a reason was shown in the main part of the entry, and then you think other words like specifying a reason, pinpoint a reason. These are the words that our language data tells us are the most frequent combinations with reason. The last of the 3 keys to fluency, phraseology, collocation, we've looked at, and then there's the question of register, style. It's about the kind of language that's appropriate in a particular context. I mean, it's obvious that if you're hanging out with your friends or doing stuff on social media, you're not going to use quite the same kind of language that you would use if you were in a job interview or writing an academic assignment or a business letter. So how do you know? Well, here we are, register. What the dictionary does, it uses what we call labels, and here's a label here, this word ameliorate, which says it's very formal. We've got the word knackered, which means tired, and that one says it's very informal. So in both cases, they're actually meaning-wise quite simple words. Ameliorate means improve, knackered means tired, but there's something about them that restricts them to particular types of discourse. So let's go back to that definition of dictionary that we had at the beginning. We said it explains what word means, it explains how words are used and how you say them, and we've looked at all of that. But there's more to it than that. We have to a thesaurus. And this is the great thing about being online, is that it opens up all kinds of opportunities to provide types of information that it wasn't really possible to do before. And the thesaurus very much relates to vocabulary building. What the thesaurus does is it gives 2 kinds of information, and I'll show you here. The way the thesaurus works, here we've got the word intelligent, you've got the usual dictionary entry, and then down at the bottom it says explore thesaurus. Now, if you click that button, you're going to get a whole list of similar words, and what the dictionary does is it gives 2 kinds of thesaurus sets. One is where you've got quite kind of concrete words like names of trees or body parts or musical instruments and things like that, and what you'll get in the thesaurus for those words is a whole list of all the musical instruments, all the body parts, all the parts of cars, types of furniture, that sort of thing. And then for more abstract words like intelligent, words like remember, what you'll get is 10 close synonyms, words which are not exactly the same. There are more or less no real synonyms in English, complete synonyms, but words which are pretty similar to one another. And this is what you'll get at intelligent, or part of what you'll get. There would actually be 10. And you can see that there are little definitions here to help you choose which one is exactly the right one for the situation that you're in. See, a word like bright, you often talk about, so-and-so, I've got a couple of very bright students in my class, and well, maybe you've got a lot more bright students than that. But bright is a word that's often used about young people. It's often used about people who seem very promising and likely to do well in their careers and so on. So it's very similar to intelligent, but it's not quite the same. And there are situations where one will be appropriate and the other maybe less so. Another factor in choosing the right word is frequency. This is where Macmillan has this rather unique system of red words, where the most frequent words in English, the 7,500 core vocabulary of the language are shown in red, and they're also divided into 3 bands with 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. And that's also a factor in choosing the kind of words that you want. Back to ameliorate again, which we mentioned earlier. Well, ameliorate is a black word. It's not a red word. That means it's rather uncommon, which may be different, you know, because in some languages like French and Italian, the words which are cognate to that are actually quite normal mainstream words, whereas ameliorate in English is a rare word and as we saw before, very formal. And there's the word improve, which is pretty much a synonym, but the difference is improve is shown in red. It has 3 stars, which means that it's one of the 2,500 most frequent words in English. It's not to say that ameliorate isn't a good word. It just may help you decide what's worth learning and what's worth using, and so on. What we're doing now in the online dictionary is taking much fuller advantage of the medium, and we have all these additional features on the website, and these are geared towards language awareness, things like games, videos, infographics. There's a useful menu at the top called resources, and you can see here that it mentions things like games and videos and word lists and so on. The games, for example, there's 4 games at the moment, and there are more to come. The irregular verb game is not too difficult, but this one, there's a frequency game testing your knowledge of how frequent words is. That's pretty challenging. And the words make good teaching material, I think. They can all be used as 5-10 minute fillers. Students can compete against one another and so on. The other infographics, this is kind of a recent development. You'll be familiar with seeing things like this on things like news websites or news TV programs for that matter. It's a kind of a more immediate, more punchy way of providing information, and this one here about relations and relationships gives a lot of interesting words and phrases around that area. We also have a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos on them, all geared towards teaching and learning. A couple of examples are we had a series called Real Grammar, 10 videos on questions of grammar, a quiz that went with it. More recently, we've got this new series called Real Vocabulary, which is being presented by Scott Thornbury. Again, 10 videos, a quiz, all about questions of vocabulary. And I guess everybody knows who Scott is, and he's a great presenter, and it's a wonderful series, and I very much recommend it. So we come back to that question about what's a dictionary. We have the thesaurus, the extra features, and we also have, finally, teaching and learning materials, things like the blogs, worksheets, lesson plans, and so on. So we have this blog, MacmillanDictionaryblog.com, which has been going for more than 5 years, 6 years, I think. It has a massive archive of material. The posts on it are written by well-known writers, experts in various topics. This one's about grammar, but we also cover things like language change, new words, linguistics, common errors, pragmatics, and so on. Again, very good resource for the odd filler in class. I have got friends who work at university level who tell me that they use our blog posts with their students for talking about, discussing, commenting on interesting language issues. And finally, there are the worksheets and lesson plans. There's a lot of downloadable material. There's one here which is about pragmatics. Lots of different lesson plans about things like, ways of apologizing, ways of making suggestions, ways of expressing agreement or disagreement, and so on. So, come to my final slide. You can see that I've listed here all the features. explaining what words mean, explaining how they're used, pronunciation, thesaurus, and all of these extra features that we can now use as we take greater advantage of the digital medium. And the dictionary has, therefore, its functions have broadened out enormously from what we saw in that original definition, where it said it was a book that told you what words mean. It deals with meaning, it deals with language production, vocabulary building, language awareness, which is not about one particular word or phrase, but about just getting a better understanding of how the English language works. And then finally, the teaching and language materials. So I hope you found out a few things about the dictionary that you didn't know about the enormous range of resources that it offers. And it sort of makes me think I need to go back to that definition of dictionary and have another look at it. Thank you all very much for coming and for listening, and maybe we have time for a few questions too. Okay. No, I can't hear anybody except myself, but do we go on to Henry here?
So, thank you, Michael. He can't hear me, so guys, I'm going to rely on you to write to Michael in the chat box so that he can...
Oh, where can we find the PDF? Okay, I think Henry will say something about that. I haven't done it yet, but we'll get that up soon. Oh, well, thank you for all the thank yous. It's very kind to me. And Henry is speaking, but I can't hear him.
So, yeah, can you tell Michael that he needs to... So, if you write your questions in the chat box, tell Michael that I said he can answer a few of them. That's all. If you write that in the chat box for him now, be perfect. So you can be my interpreters, guys.
Well, Henry, I'm sorry I couldn't hear a word you said. Oh, well, that was a nice comment that someone's made, that they... Yeah. So Henry asked to answer a few questions, please. Okay, can you answer the questions? I'll try. Just a few. Okay. The questions are going by so fast that I can't. I think I might have to do this offline in some way. These questions are whizzing past at an enormous rate. Can you suggest an actually good dictionary for kids? Scroll back up and they will stop. Okay, thank you. I use the dictionary. I have no idea it has so many resources. We can find this in plans. Can we download the dictionary and use it on a laptop? You can't download it. You just log onto it and it's there. What information does the dictionary have on phrasal verbs? Oh, huge amounts of information on phrasal verbs. If you look up phrasal verbs now, you find that they are entries in their own right. In the olden days, you used to, if you wanted to find out what something like put up with meant, you had to go through the whole long entry to the word put, and then somewhere down at the bottom you'd find put up with, but that doesn't happen now. You just stick put up with in your search box and it'll come straight up. And it gives you information about the meaning, of course, but also that very difficult thing about the grammar. There's also a phrasal verbs game, I should say, which is well worth looking at. Actually, there are two phrasal verbs games, and one of them deals with that very difficult business of, where you put the particle, whether it comes straight after the verb or whether there's something else in between. From the Ukraine, goodness, hello. Thank you for all the questions. What about the pronunciation of medical terminology? Can anybody hear me? Or am I just talking just in a... Oh, yes, they can, okay. pronunciation of medical technology, terminology. Well, it's not a medical dictionary, but we do have quite a lot of medical words in it, words which have a label medical, and the pronunciation is the same as for any other word. That you get IPA, and you also get you can hear the word by pressing the pronunciation icon. Okay, just looking for that. Names of diseases. Yeah, we have names of diseases. Last question now. Everything is okay with the sound. Thank you. Okay. Are there lesson plans in the dictionary? Yes. It's all not in the paper dictionary, but online. Yeah, you go to the resources menu, and you'll find lesson plans and e-lessons and so on are one of the things listed there. Also, if you go to the home page of the dictionary, you can scroll down there. You'll see links to things like that, to any of the resources. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Saskia. Yeah. What about corpus linguistics? Was this method used to write the dictionary? Yeah, absolutely. This is very much a corpus-driven dictionary. Fortunately, when we started doing the dictionary at the end of the 1990s, corpus linguistics was already well established, so we had good resources, and we were able to base the dictionary very much on the evidence that we found in our language corpora. I think I'm going to say goodbye at this point. That's a good one. How would you convince a teenager to use a dictionary rather than Google Translator? I think that's a great question. I think the answer is, have a look at this. Have a look at this video again. Check out all the resources you get. You get nothing like that in Google Translate. Google Translate has got a lot better than it was, but it's still. I mean, when I use it for translating English-Spanish or vice versa, you find so many mistakes. The resources in a good dictionary will really help you learn, which I think using Translator doesn't. It just sort of solves a problem, an immediate problem, if you're lucky, but you're not really learning anything by doing that. Okay, I'm going to sign out at this point, and just to say again, thank you very much to everyone for taking part, listening, asking lots of good questions, and I'll talk to Henry in a bit about getting the PDF available to everybody soon. Okay, so that's me. I'm signing out. I have got another session on Saturday actually about jokes and humour, which actually might be a bit more funny than this one. So I hope you'll come to that one too, and meanwhile, have a good week and goodbye for now.